Welcome to episode 226 of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Good to be with you again.
Yeah, here we are rolling into the new year swiftly. And we've got an exciting event coming up next week, actually, on Tuesday the 23rd. So we want to let you know all about it.
Is that the launch of your glasses?
No, it's not. Yeah, I am now wearing glasses as of 24. So eyesight is diminishing, unfortunately, in my old age. But
well, you can expect to live to 100, Chris, and that's
yeah.
an interesting one, isn't it? Because we've talked about this before, joking aside, that as people live a much longer and hopefully a much healthier life, and a loss of eyesight isn't necessarily anything other than what's normal, the presbyopia that sets in when you get in your 40s. I don't know what happens when you get a lot later than that, but that's me. And fueling a life that is long-lived is such a critical skill that we, first of all, need to master for ourselves, even if we don't live to 100. But it's our children who are going to live to 100, isn't it, on average now? So we really need to master some of these skills. So we've been taking quite a bit of time to upgrade and update some of our thinking to reflect that and to make some changes in what we're doing. So we want to bring those changes, as powerful as they are, to make things more affordable, more accessible. And ultimately, I'm hoping, Chris, an absolute no-brainer. So a AAA, affordable, accessible, and an absolute no-brainer for people to take the small steps they need to create financial security and then onwards and upwards to financial independence. And we know so few people reach financial independence. It's almost like being a centenarian. So few people reach 100 these days, but that's getting closer and closer and more and more and more and more. So I think we want to try and help more people reach financial independence, and not just 5%. So we're starting with security this year, which is a big focus for us, isn't it? To not have people feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the difference from where they are now to a life that is beautifully led with everything in their life, but security, where their expenses of normal daily life to a reasonable level, almost for most people, you've got to wait 40, 50 years to do that in a conventional pension. How you can do that in maybe even 24 to 36 months. So big focus on that. Anyway, I'm stealing your thunder, Chris. You wanted to announce something.
That's okay. Well, if you want to find out more about how you can achieve financial security in the next 2 to 3 years, so just, 2026, if you start now, you take one action every month. That's all we ask, isn't it, Kevin? One action a month. You can be financially secure by 2026. And we know that for a fact.
Yes. And I think the reason we're changing focus to do one thing, because anybody can do one thing. Everybody tells us time is busy, the work is busy, business is busy, family is busy, everybody's busy. But if you stay busy, you'll be working for a very, very long time and never really reach security. Yet just doing a few things, I know we say one thing will compound upon itself. And doing one thing a month, anybody could do that, right? There isn't anybody who couldn't do one thing. I mean, one thing, you could do that. The thing is doing the right thing. And that's what we hope to share to help you make distinctions enough to do the right thing for you. What's the one thing for you? Because if you just do the one thing, get pulled apart in different directions from different ideas that maybe don't make sense in your circumstances, we can identify that and we can help you kind of focus on the right thing. So do one thing, but do the right thing. And we've created a whole process for this, Chris, to help people focus on the right thing based on the 9-step roadmap.
We have indeed, and we'll be sharing that roadmap live next Tuesday, the 23rd of January, in a webinar titled Achieve Financial Security by 2026, Your Action Plan. We will be showing you the steps that you can take to achieve that for yourself. And it doesn't matter what stage you're at, whether you're right at the beginning, you're just curious, or you're already financially secure, you're wanting to now move towards independence. We have got support and education to help you. So wherever you're at, do register for that webinar. Head to wealthbuilders.co.uk. You'll see a big banner at the top of the website and just click to register, and we'll see you there. We're doing 2 sessions, a lunchtime session and an evening session, so you can pick the one that suits you best.
Yeah, because life is busy, Chris.
Sure is.
We need to be accessible, and we're trying so hard to be accessible this year. Not just in terms of pricing and times of day, but also really trying to get out in the world this year. Lots and lots of meetings and lots of places, so we can genuinely build that community of people who are doing good work and enjoying it, Chris. Because the whole process, I think, for me, is if you're working and involved in a community rather than DIY, then the journey, which is always a journey, is a bridge to a gap between where you are now, where you want to be. Whatever those numbers are, the number's not critical at all. It's faster, it's safer, and it's fundamentally more enjoyable if you do it in company. It's no fun on your own. Well, I don't think it's fun on your own. Crumbs, it's like, imagine going on holiday and having wonderful food, wonderful wine. It's not the same without wonderful company. I believe that. So that's what WealthBuilders is about. It's about that. It's about connecting, and we're going to bring a whole raft of new ideas on how to make connecting more fun, more engaging, and the use of technology, and more of that in coming podcasts as well, Chris. So.
Absolutely. Now, we're both big fans of personal development, of ongoing education. Tony Robbins is a name I'm sure everybody's heard of. He talks about, if you want to be successful, model the success of others, those who've already walked the path ahead. And we know we've helped hundreds of people to move from financial insecurity to security. And there's a process, and we've been teaching this for many years, Kevin. And a key part of the wealth building process is a piece of IP, which you created many moons ago, called the Wheel of Wealth. And Kev, can you remember back to episode 9 in 2019? That was when we actually first talked about the Wheel of Wealth on the Wealth Talk podcast. Yeah.
Well, the brain was obviously agile then, right? 2019. And the Wheel of Wealth, an incredible, not the wheeling of wealth, but the Wheel of Wealth, which at that stage was a 5-step process, which we've upgraded now to reflect a more challenging and a more complex life. But the whole principle of a process to follow, which, go back and listen to episode, whatever you said it was there, 9.
Number 9.
But today we'll share with you the upgraded version, and I suppose, Chris, you can even now, with the world of technology and the green screens we've got behind us and share screens that you can tap into, we could probably show what the Wheel of Wealth is. Do we know?
Yeah. Let me pop it up on screen. So if you are listening to this episode, then you can go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook group, and you can watch the video I'm sharing on screen now, the brand new updated Wheel of Wealth. And we'll link to this as well. So if you'd like to download a PDF copy of this, then go to the show notes for today, and the URL wealthbuilders.co.uk/226, and you'll be able to download a copy of the Wheel of Wealth yourself. So Kevin, let's just summarize what the Wheel of Wealth used to consist of. 5 steps. And would you like to just run through what those 5 were?
Well, it's probably easier, Chris, if I just do the one that we've got and say why I've added the new ones, to be honest with you, because the fundamentals are the same, and I just find myself repeating. But I think the big changes, the first one is at the very core, so at the center there of the picture. So if you're imagining, if you're listening to this, just a circle, right, a wheel or a cog, imagine a cog. And imagine that the cog is engaged on a crankshaft, let's say, and you've got the wheel on the crankshaft, and what you're trying to do is turn that wheel. And you need to turn that wheel, or turn that cog, or turn that gear, whatever works for you, 360 degrees from the start all the way around to the end. And then when you follow that process of going all the way around, you can almost feel or hear a click, and that click, once you conclude it satisfactorily and not cheat it. So we say in Wealth Builders, Chris, don't we? Don't cheat the wheel. Mm-hmm. Follow the wheel. And if you follow the process, and we'll cover what those steps are in a moment, you should be able to generate on that click a flow of cash. In other words, something that's adding to your security number, a stream of recurring income, or a flow of capital, a lump sum, a capital flow that you can then use to either plant another seed in another asset, carry on the journey of building the asset you're building, or alternatively use that to pay something down, like a debt or something that is seeing money leaking out of your life. So a flow of cash or a flow of capital. Usually it's one or the other, sometimes can be both, but either way, you start the process with thinking, right, what's my outcome? Is it a flow of cash or a flow of capital? Now follow the process. And the start of the process always, and what isn't changed, Chris, is education. Because education is a precursor to all good work. And when you think about it, just from a philosophical point of view, everything good in the world is created twice. First in your head, and then secondly by action. And what gets in your head is your education, isn't it? And you and I, Chris, as you said a moment ago, both keen followers of others who share and inspire. And getting that education is a mindset thing that opens up your mind to receive more, that we should be lifelong learners, not just learners in school. Mind you, we've been on that, beaten that drum quite a few times. They don't teach finance in school, and I'm hoping that the petition is getting up that we've mentioned a few times, Chris, maybe always put a little link in again to the petition to try and get those 10,000 signatures. But I'm digressing, but education, not just academic education, but education in terms of mindset and education in terms of what can you do and what are the different assets that you can use to build your wealth. Now, we've got education, of course, and we're very strong believers in our own, but we also curate other people's education. So there are some great educators out there that we resonate with. So if you stay open to receiving education and get education in the direction you want to turn the wheel. So if you want to turn the wheel to build a stock market portfolio, there's no reason to fill yourself with education about something completely different. Now, so the purpose of the wheel then is to be focused. It's not to be dissipated, it's to be completely focused. And so whatever education it is, that's what we go for.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kevin, and education can come either in free format, such as podcasts, books, videos, or some people who want to dive a little bit deeper will be, prepared to pay for a course or, a one-day event or some kind of training. So either way is fine.
Yes, and in WealthBuilders, we show you ways that you can participate in that sort of immersive education, either free or a fraction of the cost by sharing it with somebody else, because often courses are for two people, or use your pension or other assets to pay for it. So you plant the seed and then use the fruit from that seed to pay for your education. So education is an investment, it's not a cost. So, but it's the first step in the wheel, it always has been. All right, so that hasn't changed, Chris. The second step is, you talked about modeling, and the purpose of modeling is to follow a plan that's already been successfully followed. So we believe the second step then is support. So the first step one, education, second step, support. Now we're turning the wheel now. So if you're just visualizing this, we're going from, say, 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So we're just rotating ourselves around the wheel, making sure, we've got the right education. Okay, we've found a trusted source, and then we're getting some support normally, and that can be online support, it could be verbal support, coaching support. We'll come on to coaching later, but you're getting some support that helps you stay focused on the education, where whenever you start an educational process, if it's helpful to you, you're going to ask questions. So you want to be in a place where you can not just have your questions asked, but you can also get them answered, so that, again, that keeps you going. You don't get stuck overthinking things often. So getting support, and certainly within WealthBuilders, we believe in that in all sorts of ways, Chris, just as education is online, offline, live, face-to-face, all sorts of different ways. So finding a trusted place. And what I mean by a trusted place, where you feel deep down, it isn't something you can tick a box. It's something that's inside of you that says, hey, I feel the integrity of this support. I feel that they're about helping me achieve my outcome. It's not just selling me more stuff, right? So there's a balance to play between getting the right education and support from a place where you feel that you really resonate. And I'm hoping, we're part of that alternative that you can look at. And certainly with the curation of other people we work with, we can signpost other people as well that we believe are trustworthy. So that's the first two. The third one is a new one, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And I've added this one. So number 3 on the 7 steps is the community. And I think, in the end, when you boil it down to the very nature of human beings, we're a being that craves community and connection. And we're a social animal, after all. That sets us apart in many, many ways. And I think post the pandemic, we've seen that need for community grow larger and larger and larger. And so we've added that in, and we're now doing everything in our power to make it easier to be part of a community that supports you. So it's part of the support, but it isn't something that is made available in a capsule. You've got to be part of a community. And the reason why I think that community is critical is because so often, and you said it before, Chris, 95% people don't become financially independent, which means only 5% are, which means 95% of the people around you are not building their wealth. So you've got to surround yourself with people who are. Otherwise, you'll be pulled backwards into the mediocrity of the masses. You'll be pulled backwards into, well, why are you thinking about that? You're thinking about doing property? What, with the house prices crashing? You're going to get all of the naysayers, as an example. So it's much better to be in some respects, in many communities where whatever the wealth that you're trying to create, there are other people trying to do the same thing, so that you can get the benefit of the shared experience, the collective brain, the intellectual and social shortcuts that you can make, as I said, faster, safer, more enjoyable. And community, important aspect of that. And we're going to do our best to make all of our communities, Chris, easier to work with, easier to find, and more fun and engaging to participate in.
Fantastic. Okay. So number 1, education. Number 2, support. And then we've just covered step 3 in the Wheel of Wealth, which is community. So that moves us on to step 4, which is connections, which was included in the original wheel as well.
It was. Connections has always been important to us because, at WealthBuilders, we believe we're sort of almost at the hub of this, driving the wheel. But sometimes you need, like a GP would call on a specialist when something more specific is needed. So if someone is talking to us about a specific area of wealth they build and we don't have the expertise in that, and we certainly don't, then we would call on that expertise. But the power of connections done in this way, and I'll just describe that in a second, is more powerful than randomly spending your time going out in the world of Google and other search engines trying to find people. So what we've done is created inside of WealthBuilders something we call the Wealth Hub. And the Wealth Hub is a place of excellence. It's a center where those people that we found over the years, and we've been doing this for quite a while now, who are outstanding in their field, we believe them to be entirely coming from a place of integrity and shared values, and we resonate with them and them with us. And we will share and therefore curate, not just create, their content or their services with our community, because you can't know everything. And everybody says in the world of wealth, you don't know what you don't know. What we're trying to do is, by being at the center of support level, step number 2, by having our own support network, our own support team, then if we get a question, we can curate the answer to the question. And the weirdest one I've had, Chris, this is just an interesting thing. It's the weirdest question I think I remember for a number of years. Is how do I buy a commercial property in Colombia using my pension? Right? And Bogota, right? How on earth do you do that? Kev, do you know the answer? No, I do not know the answer. Did I find out the answer? Yes, I did. How do I do that? I reach into my big black book, which is part of the connections. I find what style of law is there in Colombia? Is there an English-speaking lawyer and a Spanish-speaking lawyer? And does pensions pensions or trust funds? Do pension trusts get recognized in Colombia? Yes, they do, because they're based on common law. And then put two people together and the world takes over from there. And so every question, there's always an answer, which comes back to the principle we often teach in Wealth Builders, which is who, not how. So whenever you're stuck, whenever your wheel gets stuck, and you need to grease the wheel, the point is there's always a who knows how. So don't get stuck with a how, look for the who. And Wealth Builders are just a great place to find the who's that you are looking for to help you move on to the next level. That's number 4, connections.
Excellent. Well, I'll pause you there, give you a moment to take a breather, Kevin. And talking of connections and community, let's take a break and head over to Trustpilot, where we always love to read out our latest reviews. And I found one here. Let me have a look. Here we go, from Gavin, who's left us a review. And Gavin says, I had a great learning experience with Wealth Builders. The community is also very supportive and go out of their way to make everybody feel welcome. The ability to network with like-minded people definitely made a difference and helped me get started with my wealth building activities and get myself onto the property ladder. So thank you, Gavin, for taking time to leave us a few words there.
Yeah, well, I guess it's step 3 and step 4 in action there, Chris, really. Which takes us into step 5, which really wasn't part of the first Wheel of Wealth, but I think we've decided to include it because it adds an extra dimension and keeps the momentum going. And this is coaching. So step 5, coaching. Now, look, we know that people who are outstanding in their field, elite athletes, elite anybody, have got some form of a coach or have had some form of a coach. And so we believe that coaching encourages and maintains focus along the path you're already on. In other words, it keeps you accountable, it keeps you focused, it keeps you engaged, it identifies when something is getting in the way. And often we find what gets in the way of people is themselves. And we have to get themselves out of the way by saying, hey, you don't need to know and understand that in order to take the next step. More often than not, when people don't know everything, they want to know everything before they take the next step, right? So we've seen that the over-analysis, the paralysis by analysis is the term that's used. And the deeper you go, the more often you can get stuck in that mud a bit later on in the journey, which is a tragic waste if you spend time, energy, money, and aspirations to move where you are to where you want to be, and then you get stuck. So having a coach who can help you. Now, one of the things we've done this year, Chris, is hitherto, Wealth Builders has really always been about coaching. We've always had coaches. But now we're making coaching as an optional as well. So if people just want to recognize themselves getting stuck, they can tune into coaches and have one-off coaches. But we encourage the process of finding a good coach you resonate with and work with that coach every single month. So the philosophy of Wealth Builders is do one thing every month. Okay, I know we've said it in the negative in the past, never let 30 days go by without doing something to build your wealth. Probably change that philosophy this year, is just do one thing, every month. And if you do that one thing and you're holding yourself accountable to a coach, you said, right, you said you were going to do this. Have you done it? Right, you haven't done it. What's holding you back? What can we help you get done so you don't leave it too long? So that momentum just keeps you going, because momentum is everything in wealth. Because as soon as you get stuck, you can be stuck forever and never ever get going again because of a loss of confidence and a loss of self-worth and a whole range of other emotions that get in the way there, Chris. So coaching, a really, really important step.
Yeah. And a comment I probably hear every week when I'm speaking to members is how valuable it is having a coach, because what's easy to do is easy not to do. And when you know you've got a coaching call coming up in a few days' time, it gives you that little nudge you need to make sure that you get the things done that you said you were going to get done this month. And, our coaches are not there to be teachers. They're not cracking the whip, but they are there to help you and to support you and make sure that you don't start drifting and going off track, because it's all too easy for people to get caught with the shiny penny syndrome and a new idea, or they get excited by, someone they heard online or at an event, and they go off down a rabbit hole. And the coach is there to say, hold on, let's look at your plan and let's just stick to what we agreed. And
yes,
that's so valuable.
That's a really good point, Chris. So, we talk about focus your way to security, diversify your way to wealth. What we mean by that is, especially, when people work with wealth builders, they'll more often than not do their wealth dynamic, which identifies their thinking style, their learning style, their decision-making style. So you gave an example there of the shiny penny, which is often those people very heavy in the sort of dynamo energy, which is the creativity. They got 25 ideas before breakfast, and they listen to somebody else's podcast and immediately go, oh, I'll do that then. Oh, I'll do that then. So that they start setting off multiple wheels at the same time. But like trying to spin plates or juggle balls, it's easy to drop them. So we encourage, focus on the wheel you're in. Do the one thing, get that wheel all the way round to 360 so that you conclude that wheel. Remember, get that flow of cash, get that flow of capital, and then move on to the next wheel. Do not start trying to spin multiple wheels, because if you do that, you're going to get yourself in all sorts of difficulty and get frustrated and probably spend a load of money, because you'll be I've seen it before, particularly people have got in property where there's maybe 20 strategies. They'll hear of a different strategy every week and go off and try and conclude on 4 different strategies when they really just should focus on one, because you can turn the wheel. You could probably turn a wheel in a wealth building way, Chris, probably within 3 to 6 months. So if you can 90 days turn a wheel, get yourself a flow of cash or capital, then you can move on to the next one. You don't need to be spinning plates. You don't need to be spinning multiple wheels.
Absolutely. And you can see there, if you follow that process consistently, then within 2 to 3 years, you can absolutely be covering your outgoings, which is your financial security figure. So, for me, the Wheel of Wealth, it's all about saving people time and saving people money by, staying focused and not going down a path that perhaps isn't best suited for you. So step 5 was coaching there, Kevin. So step 6 is due diligence.
Yeah, well, you said save people time, save people money. Sure. But save people against loss is quite critical, because so many examples where the step of due diligence, what is due diligence? It's risk mitigation. It's saying, right, let me, as you turn the wheel, you get more knowledge, you get more involved, you get more in depth. Now that can be a challenge if you get too far and then you skip the risk mitigation and go straight into action. So the due diligence stage, you hear the word due diligence a lot, but it means properly assess what risks there are, because no matter what asset, no matter which way you're choosing to build wealth, there's a risk. There's a risk in everything. There is no risk-free investment. Cash isn't risk-free. Gold isn't risk-free. Stock market isn't risk-free. Property isn't risk-free. Nothing is risk-free. So you take time and you take stock and you look at the risks and assess those risks. Do you understand all the risks? And ideally create something called a risk register. A risk register says, almost like just a piece of paper, can be as simple as with pros and cons, what risks, what's the risk, the positive risk, what's the negative risk. So what would the negative risks be? And then evaluate them. Do you understand them? And if you understand them, to what extent have you tried to mitigate them? Now, partly you can mitigate it by good knowledge, good coaching, good connections, because if you're following a path somebody's been on, you've seen all the risks because they've described them and they've shown you specifically how they mitigated their risks, and you can copy that, and hopefully that will help you mitigate yours. But every asset has a different degree of risk. So I couldn't give a summary here, Chris, of how to conduct due diligence, but there's a complete different process for due diligence on, say, investing in a portfolio or an ETF in the stock market than doing a development of a piece of land into 50 apartments. Or there's a huge deal of difference between, buying a premium bond than, let's say, learning how to trade options on the stock market. So every risk carries a different thing. And more often than not, I see the risks are being almost ignored in some cases because they believe that if they ask the question and stop now and ask more questions about risk, they'll either feel embarrassed, honestly, or they'll feel, well, I've come this far, I might as well go all the way, and not really taken stock of what those risks are. So we're very keen on helping everyone understand the risks, and we've pretty much seen everything apart from, well, even now, hotels or commercial units in Colombia. So we've seen most things, Chris. So I would rather someone asks us, so these are the risks I'm seeing, what else should I understand? Because once you can document that, do your risk register, that gives you permission then to take the final step, Chris, which is action. And the action is to press the button, spend the money, make the decision, engage a lawyer, whatever process gets the conclusion of the wheel turn done. And then when you do that, you've successfully turned the wheel, and that should give you that flow of cash or flow of capital.
Mm.
So you can see it's an actionable, easy to follow, not difficult. I know this, most people are leveraging their time, aren't they? So they don't have the visual in front of you. So just imagine again, you've got a wheel on a crankshaft, and what you're trying to do is put one wheel on, turn it successfully, then you do that, add another wheel, turn that successfully, then another one, and then you're getting from first gear to second gear to third gear to fourth gear and so on. Compounding just like you do in a car and getting faster and faster and faster. So the reason why we say do one thing is because at the beginning, do one thing is what you need to do. When you get good at this and you get good at turning wheels and the friction is overcome because it's not the first time you've done it, the wheels turn more quickly, and that's when you accelerate. And the acceleration can't happen until you started the process. It's a bit like, imagine in a manual gear system, Chris. I know we've got automatic cars, haven't we? Electric cars, actually. But, if you went from first gear to seventh gear in the space of a few yards, what would happen? The gears would grind and crank and probably fall out. The gearbox would probably fall out. You'd physically hear and feel the pain of that. You don't see that when people are building wealth. You can't go from 1 to 7. You can't do that. You've got to go through the gears. So each turn of the wheel is like learning to drive your wealth. Turn one wheel at a time. Don't cheat the wheel. Chris, please make sure we've got a copy of that for anyone to be able to download, to print, to ideally stick on your wall, so you've got your wall of wealth. You've got all the downloads you can get from us, and we've got some of our members have done that, Chris, haven't we? Every download we've ever had is up on their wall to remind them, what it is they need to do. Because remember, if you're on your own, you might need an occasional reminder, or just connect with us, and we'll try and help you connect with the right people, get the right education, have the right coaches, and help you turn the wheels more quickly, because that's all we do is help people turn wheels.
Absolutely. And turning the wheel could be across any of the 7 pillars of wealth. It might mean writing a book. It might mean setting up a membership. It might mean buying a property. So whatever it is, the key is turn the right wheel for you. And that's part of the process that we help people with every day. And if you'd like to find out more about that, do join us on next week's webinar, which is Tuesday, the 23rd of January. Head to wealthbuilders.co.uk and we'll be sharing the wheel along with our 9-step family wealth roadmap, the exact process that you can follow if you'd like to achieve financial security for you and your family. Okay, we've covered a lot there, Kevin, and hope you enjoyed that episode today. And the Wheel of Wealth is such. I remember when I first saw you present that and share that, Kevin, it really did blow my mind, as did the 7 Pillars of Wealth, all of this wonderful IP. And it's a pleasure to be able to help so many people within our membership to put this into action for themselves.
Well, you know, what's interesting for me, Chris, as you mentioned, this was episode 9, when we first introduced it to our listenership. It's important that we continually improve and we strive to do that. But it's also a useful reminder, and I think I said in a recent podcast, was the last one, I think, about resolutions. Sometimes you've got to identify the gains you've made, not just the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And this is good IP. You know, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own rear end here, but this is clever stuff, and it's been there and designed entirely to help others build their wealth in a more safer and, as I said, faster, safer and more enjoyable environment than doing it on your own, surrounded by people who are not on the same journey as you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. If you did and you think someone else might enjoy it, please do hit the share button. We'd love to grow the podcast in 2024. We're already being downloaded in over 100 different countries every month, which is amazing. But even if there's someone next door or down the road that hasn't yet come across the Wealth Talk podcast, please share that as a little gift for us.
Very good.
All right, Kevin, you and I will be back here same time, same place next week.
We will, Chris. And until then, my friend, see ya.